Hey, peace, family. Welcome to another study session of Blueprint for Black Power, Dr. Amos N. Wilson's work. My name is Ikemba, a jewelry of We Charge Colonialism, and coming to you live. Anybody that's tuning in, whether now or later, make sure you subscribe to the channel We Charge Colonialism. Throughout the week, we're usually doing different sessions, and you don't want to miss those sessions. And if you have, make sure you go back and check out some of our discussions. So this particular study that I do is revolving around Dr. Amos N. Wilson's work, Blueprint for Black Power, in which I examine thoroughly in detail his work and give my interpretation of it. In the future, I would definitely love to have other people join this discussion, bring you up. But right now, I try to keep it very brief. Just give a couple of a few of my thoughts on a paragraph or two. And so, where I'm at right now is page 6, and I'm going to go through a couple of paragraphs and discuss that. So again, appreciate everybody for joining. Join it. Make sure you like, share. And the point of this too is just like to really have our people really dig into Dr. Amos N. Wilson's work. There's a couple of other books by Dr. Amos N. Wilson we're doing right now. I'll do another study around Black on Black violence by Dr. Amos N. Wilson, and the next discussion around that is going to be this Friday at 9 o'clock. So make sure you tune into that. And then Saturday we do our podcast and book club. And right now we're reading Dr. Amos N. Wilson's book, The Falsification of African Consciousness. So we do a lot of work with Amos N. Wilson, and we definitely want to get his or get people to begin to read and examine what he was putting forth when he was alive in this material that he left behind for us. So appreciate that ancestor for giving us the blueprint. So I'm gonna get into it. Like I said, it's gonna be good morning. I'm on East Coast time. This is gonna be a quick study. Page 6, last paragraph is where I'm starting from. So many in our audience will find this discussion of power disturbing or diseasing. Having been victimized by the abuse and misuse of power, often crushed by the powers that be, the reader who identifies himself as among the powerless or as a member of a relatively powerless group, such as an African American, will be more perturbed by our discussion. The oppressed and downtrodden, having been traumatized by the abuse of power by their powerful oppressors, often come to perceive power itself as inherently evil, as by nature corrupting, and therefore as something to be eschewed, denied, and the pursuit of power is viewed as unworthy of virtuous persons, and the desire to possess it as sinful. Therefore, many among the powerless and poor feel compelled to find in their powerlessness and poverty the emblematic signs of their godliness and redemptive salvation. How convenient a precept for rationalizing and maintaining the power of the haves over the have-nots. As a result of their ideological manipulation by the powerful and their own reactionary misperception of reality, the poor and powerless have been made to perceive the pursuit of power, possession, and application of power in their own behalf as unbecoming to themselves. This is even more the case when, through their naive acceptance of the self-serving, deceptive their own self-negation and their nursing of their internalized inferiority complexes, the poor huddled masses perceive the possession and exercise of power as the inherent and exclusive prerogative of the ruling classes or races. So just to stop right there and get into that, I think there's a powerful point right here being made. And Dr. Amos N. Wilson is talking to a particular mindset and behavior within the community. And this is a generalization because there's a history of Black resistance, right, to the powers that be. There's this history of not accepting the status quo. But at the same time, there's masses of African and Black people who have accepted white power and domination. And when I say accept it, it shows in their actions and the choices that we make in regards to trying to merge with the system of oppression and exploitation. I remember one of the most powerful, for me, one of the lines that resonated for me in the Ballad of the Bullet, because there's a lot, right? And that said in the Ballad of the Bullet, Malcolm X really gives us a blueprint for nation building, Black nationalism. But Malcolm X said, who ever heard of a revolution when you're begging the system of exploitation to integrate you into it? And when when I heard that for the first time, or when the first time I caught that, it resonated with me. It hit me hard. Like in that statement alone is very profound. Like there's whoever heard of a movement when we're talking about revolution, we're talking about attaining power, and stripping it from those people who are exercising power against us. Like what type of compromise is it when you're trying to integrate yourself within that system? And so this is part of the reason why the Black community, the African community, has remained relatively powerless in regards to this relationship that we have with the colonial powers. This is because there is a segment within our community. This is neocolonialism. There's a segment in our community that has been able to reap the benefits of siding themselves or aligning themselves with the colonizer and oppressor. This has been at the expense of the masses of African people, Black people. And so, when we look at the problems in our community, it's been difficult for us to really pinpoint it as a community because we have been taught to like really accept the system, to accept the system that has been designed for those people who established this system a long time ago. I want to read the next paragraph because it kind of ties into the point that I want to continue to make, right? So he goes on to say there are many Blacks who have been convinced by racist propaganda that supreme power is divinely deeded to dominate dominate whites. They therefore suffer anxiety attacks and feel as if they are blasphemously rebelling against God Himself if they, even for a moment, seriously dare consider conspiring to wrest power from the hands of their oppressors. More unfortunate than this sorely mistaken theological is the self-abnegating perception by many Blacks that they are inherently incapable of mounting a successful campaign against oppressive white power and therefore must sulkily seek the least onerous accommodation to it. This perception of an orientation toward power on the part of African peoples is but a prescription for their unending subordination, exploitation, and ultimately, when it is convenient to the purposes of their oppressors, their genocidal demise. Therefore, if they are to survive and prosper in freedom, then, like it or not, African people must come to terms with power. We must be ever conscious of the fact that the establishment, whatever rewards it gives us, will also, if necessary to maintain its control, kill us. And that last sentence is something that that I am very concerned about, and that's why I try to work or move with a sense of urgency when I'm organizing and talking to people about the need for us to organize and establish a system of our own, a nation of our own. And what Dr. Amos N. Wilson gets at in these two paragraphs is just the mindset that we have, which has been shaped by oppression. Our mindset and our behaviors have been shaped by oppression and terrorism. It's the terrorism, centuries of terrorism that has shaped the mindset of our ancestors at a point where there you have a segment of society that acquiesces, or the Black community that acquiesce to white power and domination. So we try to merge, which is never going to happen. We're not going to be able to merge ourselves with Europeans, not under this current system, or maybe any system. But the point is that the terrorism that has been afflicted upon our ancestors, the mindset that was shaped at that time, that has been transferred or transmitted from generation to generation, that mindset and behavior. And so I'm not saying that we accept racism and colonialism, but we think that like fighting against it in a physical way or setting up a system of our own, like we're incapable of doing these things. And so the best route or path to gaining justice or gaining power is to accept the system and try to negotiate and compromise with the people who are dominating us, to be able to have some progress or gain some progress that way. And so centuries of doing that it hasn't happened, because we've been doing that since the 1600s, believe it or not, since the 1700s, in forms of resistance, rebellions to the system, and even sitting down voting. We've been voting since we had people voting since the late 1700s, right? And that's been stripped away from us. So, like I said, kind of wanted to keep this short. Appreciate everybody for joining us, and I'm gonna continue to dig deeper into this. But hopefully, I have said some things that'll make you think and begin to re-examine this relationship that we have. And many people who probably tuning in are probably already on it, but it's very important that we understand that nation building is the answer. Like, we have to build institutions, educational institutions, economic institutions, political institutions, that are not under the power of the American system or any colonial European system or any group of people. We have to be a self-determined people. We have to be able to design our own education system, curriculum, and design, our own way of interacting with each other economically. Capitalism isn't the end all be all. So we have to create things, be innovative in how we're dealing with each other. So with that being said, though, I want to appreciate everybody for tuning in to this Blueprint for Black Power study. Make sure you tune in Friday. We have a couple of podcasts going on Friday. And of course, Saturday morning at 10 a.m., be Frank and Natasha with another study of the falsification of African consciousness. And so till next time, peace.